have a very distinguished speaker today on a lot of different fronts. And we're going to hear a lot about what Bhuvan has done through Rotary across the globe. So I'm going to just share with you. He's from Sydney, Australia. He's been in the Rotary Club of St. Ives. He's been past president. He just finished being assistant governor. On a professional front, there's a lot of words that I don't know. So I just picked out the ones that I know. I'm in the opera field and music, classical music. So Dr. Von Unkler has had 2 decades of strategic and hands-on experience in the information and communication technologies industry. He's a thought leader and has published more than 17 books. He's a fellow with the Australian Computer Society and a life member of the Computer Society of India. And he has recently joined at USF as Associate Professor of Information Technology. I could say all of those words. Bhuvan's family is still in Sydney, Australia. His wife, and are all 3 of them coming in December? 2 of them. His wife, son and daughter still live in Australia, and his daughter was past Rylarian, is that how we say it? Rylarian. As a volunteer, he in New South Wales, he volunteers for the Parks and Wildlife groups leading bushwalks. His personal interests are classical Indian music, both listening and singing, writing and reciting poetry, reading and cooking, photography, and meditation, particularly from a global peace perspective. So, Bhuvan, we thank you so much for coming and being part of this and sharing how what we do here in our Sarasota Rotary Club links with what Rotary is doing across the world. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Steve. And good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I will make it slightly easier by saying good day. Because I bring to you 2 cultures, the Indian culture and the Australian culture. And in Australia, everything is easy. No worries, right? And therefore, instead of bothering whether it is past 12 o'clock, or whether it's early morning or night time, we just say good day. Now, what is this? It's a hat. You can say it's a bush hat, but a little bit more. It's a cool hat.
Is it close?
It's called a cobra. A cobra is the Australian bush hat. It's made out of rabbit fur. It's very, very unique to Australia. And it took me a while and quite a bit of creativity to bring this from Sydney to Sarasota. Because if I had put it on my head, and if it had gone through those X-ray machines, then with the amount of bags that crash on it, I don't think it would have been in this shape. So I thought I will proudly show off my cobra. Because the idea in this afternoon's, is it 20-25 minutes? That's the plan,
it's about
approximately. Yeah. So I want to bring some thoughts to you. And we heard about how, when you mentioned, ma'am, that we are growing and the brain has to go deeper and deeper. And really my idea of sharing these experiences is not just to tell you how I have been around the world. It's really less about me and more about us. And the fact that the more we get out there, and the more we expose ourselves to different cultures, different societies, different value systems, different languages, Spanish. I can speak in Hindi, and I have occasionally spoken in Hindi. India is all English speaking. But it's the question of widening our horizons together. And perhaps, and that was another of my topic, global peace, that you briefly mentioned. I remember before I left the shores of Sydney, I emailed the 7 clubs in Sarasota. Yours being the friendliest club, was the first to respond. Thank you, Bart. And I just thought that, capitalizing on this opportunity, coming here, and after it was in my international toast that I proposed to your club in St. Ives. I don't know if you got to see it, but I had put it up on YouTube. And I was.
We posted you back on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That same day, but it was 12-hour difference.
Thank you. Thank you. So I thought, it's the charm, isn't it? That you fly 9,500 miles, which is 14,500 kilometers. I'm doing all the translations now. And you land up with a bunch of friends. Isn't that an organization that deserves kudos, that deserves some acknowledgement of how it has been put together by Mr. Paul Harris in 1906? And somewhere I remember 20 years later, in one of those magazines, I read that Mr. Harris is saying to his friends that one day Rotary will be worth 20,000 people. And now we are happily wearing the Paul Harris pin. In fact, I was awarded the Sapphire pin just on the day of my departure, my last meeting in St. Ives. So it was very, very enjoyable. So, just in case you missed Stacy, look at how I'm promoting myself. No, I would say this is the reason why I am here. And both Jim and Anurag have been very kind in joining me. They are also doing my quality control, that I don't say rubbish. And you can see I'm wearing a pin here, just below the Paul Harris pin, and that is my University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee campus. We are celebrating 40 years. And one of the responsibilities of all the academics is to engage the community. And Jim keeps telling me, you hit the deck running, Mike. What are you doing? And I'm saying I've got 1.2 million people with whom I am already friends. So I am already engaged in the community. And that's one of the charms. The other little charm, Mr. Steve Blass. This particular book, the last book that I wrote, had a foreword by Steve Blass. And I had no idea where in the world is Sarasota. And when I gave the book to Anurag, being a professor, he read the foreword and he says, Steve Blass, he just lives 20 minutes driving distance from our home. Steve could have been anywhere, Europe, India, Africa, anywhere, or anywhere in the US. In Sarasota. So I think the stars are all aligned to be in Sarasota. Now let's look at the objects of Rotary. And I had to learn them by heart because I appeared in the DG interview. And I was told I was the runners-up. And in a way it was good I was runners-up because I don't know what I would have done if I was nominated as the DG because I had to come here. So, and this is not the formatted, this is the objects. And you can see a couple of objects. Development of acquaintance as an opportunity for service. Now I was here on Friday and I was keen to serve. And I'll come here again on another Friday at the Van Wezel outside and I will serve. And we have developed an acquaintance to be able to serve. I heard about Rotaract, and one of my desires is to get my students involved in Rotaract because quite a few of them would not know what a Rotaract is, and once they come to know, I'm sure they would like to do something about it. And later I will show you how I had at least 15 students in Great Lakes Institute in Chennai who were wonderful Rotaractors. Then of course, high ethical standard, which is our 4-way test, application of ideal of service in Rotarian personal, business and community life, and then advancement of international understanding, unity and peace. And I think the first and the last are the two objectives that have formed a Rotarian in me over, I would say, about 12 plus years now. And this is a interesting little exercise. Perhaps some of you might have come across it, but I have put it here. It's the exercise of connecting 9 dots with 4 straight lines. And all 3 are bad attempts because 1 dot is left out somewhere. Here, these are the 9 dots I have to connect with 4 straight lines. These are the 4 straight lines, this dot is left out. This is someone who can become a very good lawyer. My son is studying criminology, and my feeling is that he would connect the 9 dots like this. Now, one of the best clues to connecting the 9 dots is to think outside the box. That is the key. And if someone asks me, and people have asked me, why are you a Rotarian? Why do you have to do it? Is there a need for it? What do you get out of it? And I'm saying, if you want to understand what I'm doing, you need to think outside the box. So I'm going to give you the answer right in my conclusion slide. Until then, you think how we can connect 9 dots with 4 straight lines only by going outside the box. So what I have done is stretched myself, extended myself, tried to go outside the box, and I'm going to bring you some of these experiences from around the world. And the first one, of course, is India, because I was inducted in December 2003, and in February 2002. In February 2003, I was in India. Both my parents both passed away respectively in 2006 and 9. But at that time, I used to make 3 visits from Australia to India per year to go and look after them. And in the process, I attended many Rotary meetings. I presented at quite a few Rotary meetings on different topics, which I had listed in my initial email: vegetarian lifestyle, arranged marriages. And can you believe I gave a talk on arranged marriages in St. Ives Rotary Club, and I made sure my daughter attended. From memory, after that, she didn't come much to my club. Now, here is a bit of small time history. I graduated as an electronic engineer in 1982, and this beautiful building is the Faculty of Engineering. There was no IT. I'm now an associate professor of IT. There was no IT when I graduated, only electronics, and much later computing came about. So this is in my quaint little hometown of Vadodara in Gujarat state in India, and it is small and beautiful. I could almost be describing Sarasota. This is the glorious palace, hardly a mile plus from where I live, and it used to be a closed place. But now the palace has opened up, and there is a sprawling golf club. All the golfers, I invite you. My club, St. Ives, quite a few avid golfers. And the Rotary clubs in my hometown run golfing competitions and raise funds for charity, right at this palace. It's called Lakshmi Vilas Palace, and it is one of the landmarks of my hometown. Now, at that time, the cameras were not as good as they are today, but this was when I exchanged my first banner of St. Ives, which, if you remember, last week I exchanged with yours, and that was quite an enjoyable experience. And then, on 9th of February, this is written in Gujarati script, which is the script of the state, I had this unique experience, which in fact, a couple of past district governors and a few of my friends in Sydney or Sydney would have loved to be part of, and they still have not managed, is to be able to put those polio drops in the mouth of an infant in India. And as you know, there were 4 countries. India was one of them that had polio. And now, thanks to the effort by Rotary, India has been declared polio-free.
All right.
Yeah, so I suppose all the first. But as a a young Rotarian, not knowing what I'm getting involved in, I was doing polio vaccination. And today I feel very satisfied and very proud that I was a part of that campaign. I'm showing Dr. Rumin Shah to you. Rumin is now a very, very good friend. At that time, in February 2003, he was giving a Rotary talk on diabetic bomb in India, the problem, the challenge of diabetes. I had forgotten the talk, but Rumin has become a friend because in 2006, at 2:30 a.m. in the middle of the night in Sydney, cold Sydney night, August, winter time in Sydney, it was Rumin Shah who called me and said, Bhuvan, I have a very sad news. I'm right beside your father, he's no more. And suddenly I realized that it was a Rotary connection. He looked after my parents while I was in Sydney, just as he was their son. And then later on, his son came to Australia to study, and we developed a much nicer rapport with the younger generation as well. But I thought a connection I made by attending a Rotary club resulted in someone who was by the side of my father when he did his last. It was very valuable. It's still a very, very valuable moment in my life. Now this is Dr. Mahendra Nathwarawala. He is right now in London, fully settled there. He and his wife, who is a neurophysician, he is a cardiac thoracic surgeon. And he had invited me to come and give a talk at my hometown as well. But eventually it was his sister, who is also a doctor, who was by my mother's side in 2009, when the same thing happened with my mother. So both these Rotarians remain very dear to me. Now, what is this? A kangaroo, yes. And what is this? A koala bear. Koala bear is a small, cute bear sleeping most of the time. And I have put Good Day from Sydney on top of them, you can see. I have taken these two little mascots, self-developed mascots, around the world when I was a part of promoting RI convention. And as I'm sure all of you know, last year in 2014, the Rotary International Convention was in Sydney, Australia. And I had gone there, my wife had come with me, lots of friends from around the world had come, some had stayed with us as well. So I went to this little central India, Madhya Pradesh town, and I gave a talk, and this is the president. You can see he's wearing a Good Day from Sydney. I have a few pins here for some good boys and girls in this club. And this young man, he said, Uncle Bhuvan, Australian culture, the indigenous Australian culture and the Indian culture have got quite a few things in common, and one of which is that you address your elders as uncle and auntie, even if they are not your uncle and auntie. Addressing an elder by their first name is considered rude. So this young little man came up to me and said, Uncle Bhuvan, I like your koala bear and you're not getting it back. Relatively recently, I had the opportunity to go down to Chennai, which was also called Madras, which is in South India. And I was at the Great Lakes Institute of Management, formed by Uncle Bala, who is from Chicago, so he's an Indian-American background. And I was teaching big data related courses. And this is their sprawling campus, and they run MBA courses and a few other graduate courses as well. But this was the presentation I was doing at 11:30 night, in the middle of the night almost. Now what happened is these young boys and girls are all Rotaractors, and they had adopted a village, and they were working in the village till 8:30 night. Then they had their dinner, and then they came up to me and said, we want you to come and give a talk. And because I was a resident faculty, it didn't take me much time to put on my Rotary t-shirt and cap and go and give a talk, which included career guidance and of course RI convention and so on. And you can see I'm almost dead with my eyes drooping. I managed to share with them something that they found was valuable. And then there was the regular Rotary meeting, and this is where I talked about my views on global peace. Because the more we try and go outside the box, the more the chances are that we don't remain rooted in only one line of thinking. And if I am born and brought up in an environment that says red is the greatest color on earth, and I have never gone outside the box, then I am unable to appreciate that green, white, and blue can also be good colors. So this was my talk on global peace, but also Rotary Experiences, and I went to a few clubs over there. And you can see the banner thing happening over here. And you can see I was giving out my things to, they're not necessarily good boys, they were sitting in the first row. But maybe they are, who knows. Now, as a part of my consulting gig, I used to go to Malaysia. I've gone there for about 4 or 5 years now, 3 to 4 times a year. And guess what? I landed up in friends. So I'm going to share with you Rotary Club of Metro Kuala Lumpur, which is different from Rotary Club of Kuala Lumpur. But I made great friends in at least 3 or 4 clubs over there. And I was taking my mascots because at one time I was promoting the RI convention. And then of course President Lawrence was there, and we seen flags as well. And this was interesting. I had just finished my district assembly in Sydney, and the next week I took a flight, went to Kuala Lumpur, and all my club friends said, you got to come to our district assembly. So I must be the only Rotarian in the world who attended 2 district assemblies within a span of 2 weeks. Now you can see, if someone comes and says, what's the purpose? I have no answer. Because there are so many things I am doing that don't have a purpose. I'm doing for the joy of doing them. Now I did get a spin-off benefit. When the district assembly dinner was held, my table was next to the table of the Sultan of Selangor. Wow. And I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea of the importance of it until next day when I went to my training session, and I start my training by saying, what did you do yesterday? Because I was having dinner with the Sultan of Selangor. They said, okay, no jokes, please, no jokes. And I said, no, this is real. So it took me 5 to 10 minutes to convince my audience, professional IT audience, that yesterday evening I had dinner with your actual Sultan of Selangor. That's the value of Rotary. Because the then DG was friends with the Sultan, and he said, sir, if you come, then it will glorify the district assembly. Because the assembly was run almost like a conference, and we had about 400 people over there. That was a very enjoyable experience for me. Before I go to Colombo, last year on 10th of June, which is my birthday, I was in Kuala Lumpur, and my lovely wife Asha and my kids, they're also lovely, let's say. They were calling me from Sydney, and they are saying, oh, you know, Bhuvan, don't be lonely. You know, I know it's 10th of June, happy birthday to you. You know, go out, step out somewhere, you know, go to a nice restaurant, you know, please don't sit in the room, this and that. I was with 30 plus Rotarians who had thrown a big party in a restaurant, and this is their KL Metro's weekly bulletin. It's full of photographs, which I have still not shown to my family, of the wonderful party with 4 cakes, because there was a communication breakdown. So the 3 cakes were in my hotel room in the fridge. And one more time I went to my participants and I said, guess what, I got 3 cakes for you. So you can see that Rotary is not only giving me an opportunity to do service above self, which is our core theme, but is providing me with, you know, objective 1 and objective 4 are actually giving me opportunities to live a richer life, to live a much wider life than I would have led if I was not a part of Rotary. In 2008, I was rebadged as a British telecom consultant. Now, rebadging is a consulting term, so some of you have been in this space, you know that I'm actually a method science consultant, but method science of with British Telecom. So then I become their consultant. They give me a card and so on. So I went to Sri Lanka as a British telecom consultant in 2008. And I made many friends. And as I came to Sarasota, there were more than 7 clubs, and I emailed them. And the first 3 clubs that replied, I went to all those 3 clubs. And I went to their district event, and they had a sing-along, and I had my little harmonica, and I played that in front of about 1,000 people. And they said, play another song, and I said, other time, because I know only one song. The talk I was giving there was future of telecom industry in Asia and world, and I was very, very well received. This is where I was getting my thing for them giving the talk, and I think it had the Sri Lanka flag and the Rotary banner on either side of the thing. Now look at this carefully. This is the central prison in Colombo. No one goes there. You can see the cops over here, and it's a pretty menacing looking place. So why would I go there? And I did go there, and I was not arraigned, I was not charged. No. I was a part of Rotary Club of Colombo Central, and they have a wonderful project for all those little kids whose both parents are in the jail. They have a project of picking up those kids, putting them in a bus, and taking them to the only theme park in the country. And they asked me, Bhuvan, you free on Saturday, Sunday? I said, I have nothing else to do. So I'm a part of this team. We went up to the jail. We signed probably 1,000 signatures. We took about 30 to 35, maybe 40 kids. And of course, a couple of, not guards exactly, but the people who were there to oversee that, the kids are looked after and so on. And we went to Leisure World. And in America, we are quite used to theme parks. And so also in Australia, there was SeaWorld and Australia World, and this, not so in Colombo. And the sparkle in the eyes of these kids that I saw made me feel 10 feet tall. They were just wonderful. And here are some of the kids, and we took a few pictures, and as is my habit, I took some t-shirts and a few other things, and I asked them a few questions about, well, in terms of games, Australia and Sri Lanka play a game called cricket. Not croquet, cricket. And I should not talk too much about cricket in America, because I tried to do it a few times and got thrown out. Because Jack Crow, who was the boss of American Sports Medicine Institute, I tried to explain to him once, about a decade ago. I said, Jack, this is a game that is played by 2 teams, which goes on for 5 days. He said, get out of here. I said, and half the games end up in a draw. He says, get out of here. These kids knew all about that game, and so I asked them a few questions. Because the Commonwealth countries, which includes India and Sri Lanka and Australia and South Africa and New Zealand and England, of course, all the countries that drive on the left side of the Now, I did come here a while ago, more than a decade ago, and I was at a conference which was organized by the object management group, because object orientation, which is a software engineering discipline, is my core forte. And so I was a little boy at that time. I went to Rotary Club of Philadelphia. And my conference hotel and the place where the club was meeting was literally 7-8 minutes walk. And I thought, I'll go there. And again, kudos to them, they had a vegetarian plate for me. This is President Martin, we were shaking hands at the time, and this was one of the many banners, big banners they had. So this was the Japanese one. I mean, Philadelphia Club is a very old club, So they had banners from around the world, and they had clubbed them into banners from Japan and banners from America and banners from Australia or the Asia Pacific region and so on. And they gifted me this cup. So you can see I got my little bell of Liberty Bell as well. And I went another conference. My academic life provided me opportunities to attend and present at conferences, but my Rotary life made it far more interesting, like the 7 colors of a rainbow, very varied experiences. Now, Madam President Pat Thomas had made sure that there was a vegetarian meal available, and I was running late, and her only concern was who is going to eat this. Now, on a more serious note, again, very, very well received and very good experience. And you can see that was in 2009, and I had a really good time when I visited the club. So now I have to tell you all about how Rotary works and what are the projects we have and programs in Australia, which has been my home club since 2002 and my home since 1986. So I left India to go to Australia in 1986 as a young COBOL programmer. Now COBOL is a language for programming that the banks used to particularly use. Now even I can't code in COBOL, but that's how I went there. And of all the experiences I had, this was 2011 when I was elected as the president of Rotary, was the most enjoyable. And Asha, my wife, she has been supporting me, sometimes by coming to the meetings, most of the time by allowing me to go to the meetings and so on. So that was the day. This is Keshav. He's the one who is studying criminology, who would connect the 9 dots the way I showed you. She's the one who would connect the 9 dots the way I'm going to show you. She's a medical doctor. We are very proud of her. She's a resident right now since January. And she has graduate medicine, so 3 years plus 4 years, so long study. And this was my board. So there is John Steele over here, past district governor Brian Coleman, Russell Croft, Surya Patel, president, the last president Lee Stewart, and a few other friends of mine. I had a real good time. Bit challenging, as every president knows, but also very enjoyable. Now, if you remember, around that time, the RI president was Kalyan Banerjee, and Kalyan comes from not exactly near my hometown, but from my region. And so we enjoyed speaking with him in Hindi and Gujarati as much as we spoke in English. But it was enjoyable because he had come to Sydney, and then my club was hosting him. So that was a rare honor that someone who is leading 1.2 million people, and we get a chance to host him. And his wife, Vinota ji, she was also there, and Asha was there to exchange flowers, and we had a dance festival like the India Fest dance festival, and of course they could relate to it as well. We have Tree of Joy. I think you guys have, breakfast club. Breakfast club, Tree of Joy. So we have been doing this, and Wall last year celebrated his 100th birthday. And I still refuse to shake hands with him. He is a Second World War digger. Diggers are the army, and the men are called diggers. And he has got an iron grip. And I say, no, Wall, no. And he said, I'm only 100. What are you doing? We have youth exchange students. So not only am I going out and traveling and stretching, going outside the box, but I am also getting the opportunity of inward bound youth exchange students. And Matthias, or Matt as we used to call him, when he landed, young kid. And Australia, it's not only easy, it is also very loud. So there will be loud jokes and fun, and the kid is thinking, oh my God, where have I come? In 1 year, he was cutting Australian jokes. And he just went back, a confident young man, and he has visited us back. And the only problem I have, I suppose, is if Australia plays Brazil, who he's going to support. That's a good problem to have, because this young man is Rotary's ambassador for global peace. There is another one, Jacob Selling, and our president is giving him or receiving a plaque from him. Another young man, not with English as his native language, neither is mine, but his was not a native language, and he is just finishing with his teen age, and he is speaking, and he comes to our club and gives an update on what he has done, and probably seeing more Australia than I will. Youth Exchange, National Youth Science Forum. We sponsored a kid for at least 3 years, and this was science. So Cameron Brown went to Perth. The NYSF is held in Perth and in Canberra. Now, I don't know if you have this program, but we have Pride of Workmanship. And anyone that we feel is worthy of nomination gets nominated and goes through the filtering process. This young man did a fantastic job in my home. I mean, whenever I try to do such things, I actually punch holes in gas pipes. And I think my stud finder has done a good job. My family disagrees, so I'm not allowed to do any work in my home. But this young man was so professional and so spick and span clean, I nominated him. And Jerry Guthrie. Now, I have seen this man managing this pedestrian crossing at school times. So morning when the kids are going to the school, and evening when afternoon when they are coming back. And we don't have school buses in Australia, so parents are dropping off kids. And when I would drop my son, I would see this guy do such a fantastic job. And at times he would have a chat with the kid, and the queue of cars would just, without honking one bit, they would just be there. And he would talk to the kid. And his motto is "my body first." And I just once stopped my car and I said, "Hello sir, I'm from Rotary and I want to nominate you." And he was like shocked. So this is Jerry Guthrie. And then he came with his wife, and this is the award we gave him. And this is the other person that I had nominated, the electrician, and Dr. Bruce Farnsworth, our president, gave the award. We have Bobbin Head Cycling Classic. Year before last, we raised $82,000. We have a group of people, 2,000 now, who go on push bikes, and we monitor the bikes, and we make sure that they are safe, and whatever money comes in, we donate to charity. And I think last year it was, or early this year, it was more than $100,000. I'm forgetting the exact amount. But this is becoming very popular. It's a multi-club project, and we just stand there and wave our flag and say, "Good day, slow down. Good day, slow down." If we say good morning, they slow down. What's wrong with you? And again, Bruce Farnsworth, I have a few other stories to tell, but I think I'm running out of time. Megan Tilley, one of our fine Rotarians with some background, Honolulu background from women, so we do wish each other aloha. She had taken this picture when we were promoting the RI convention. And when I was going around the world for my work, I was promoting RI convention. But an interesting thing happened. This is me over here. You know, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, this is where the traffic goes, but this arch which holds the bridge is now open for a fairly substantial sum, maybe more than $100, for us to go and climb. And it was opened up by the CEO for Rotary to climb on 23rd of February last year to promote Rotary climbing. And the idea was to get as many Rotarians when they come for the RI convention on the bridge arch, and of course raise money for polio. I was the Indian face, and when we reached up on the top, the photographer said, "Do something Indian." So all I could do was namaste. When Oprah Winfrey had come to Sydney, she put 360 people on the bridge, Rotarians. We put 440 from my memory, 400 plus, and all going for good cause. Asha was supporting me as much as she could. This was welcoming at the airport. 19,500 attendees. Sydney Olympic Arena was opened up, and another Rotarian, fine Rotarian, who was staying with me, Kathy Freeman, who is our Olympic sprinter, who won many golds for Australia, this fountain is named after her. Usually in the month of June, this would not be open because these are winter months. But for the Rotary International Convention, the fountain was opened up. It's a beautiful arena, very, very well made. Our Prime Minister came to the opening, gala opening, with whatever 15, 16,000 people there, and the New South Wales Premier. Now, all politicians are always under pressure, and so is Mr. Abbott. But my reason, we are non-political, by the way, is when he gave a talk, he announced $100 million for aim polio, which I thought was quite good. But even better, when he finished his talk, he came down the stairs, went up to the first row, shook hands with his father, who is a Rotarian, walked back up the stage and vanished in whatever helicopter or car or whatever he had come. And I thought it was a nice show towards an elderly Rotarian who was sitting in the first row. I appreciated that. The Opera House was lit up for the convention. This is the Taj Mahal of Australia. The trains were all running time, and they were charter trains. And I have to mention that because my wife works for transport, so she'll be very happy. And we had trolleys carrying people around the venue. What is this? This is a boomerang. It's a aboriginal piece of art, and the charm of it, which I have not successfully yet done, is to throw it in such a way, and with the wind direction and so on, that it turns around and comes back. So this is another place where I find the Indian and the indigenous Australian culture matching with each other, because in India we have what is called the law of karma. You do good and good comes back to you. You throw the boomerang in the right manner and it will come back to you. We had gifted this to RI President Kalyan, I still remember. And the Aboriginal dance group did all the welcomes. And does anyone know what is this instrument? Didgeridoo. My God, you are all Australians. And who is cuter of the two? Well, look, this is a diamond python. It's a harmless python, but it is still a python. And I wouldn't take chances with that. And the last bit that I have to share with you in next 30 seconds. We are non-political, we are non-religious, but we respect all politics and we respect all religions. So last RI President Ray Burton, from memory, but Mr. Burton, he had invited me very kindly through a letter to the interfaith service. And there were 5 faiths represented at the start of the RI convention, and we were each given 3 minutes to read something from the faith. So we had, this is Commissioner James Condon from Salvation Army, and he had permitted and in fact asked me to don my Hindu robes. And then we had a Christian reading, a Islam reading, a Jewish reading, a Buddhist reading, and a Hindu reading. And it was very enjoyable and it was very respectful. And I thought, non-religious does not mean anti-religious, right? Non-religious only means that we absorb as much as we can. And that was my very enjoyable experience of reading for about 3.5 minutes. And the current RI President, Ravi Ravindran, he was there in the hall. And so he came up to me and shook hands, and we had a very good chat. Asha is there, of course, quality control. So now let me summarize what what I have said. That the objects of Rotary enable worldwide experiences, widening us beyond age, beyond profession. And we appreciate that other. In fact, Dr. Bruce Farnsworth, I just mentioned, is world-class pelvic surgeon. Nowadays he doesn't operate. But one fine day he just took my daughter in an operating theater even before she was considering medical profession. And he showed her the entire operation. Now imagine the amount of influence that a professional has on a younger man or woman. And that's why I am very interested in helping many people, youngsters, with their career. Education and rotation is the key to global peace. And then let me quote Ravi Ravindran. What's the theme of this year? I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They are really saying, I love you. And I sing to myself, be a gift to the world. Come on, sing with me. And I sing to myself, be a gift to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhuvan. It was so,
We gotta get the solution.
it was,
That's
oh,
right there.
yeah, that's the solution, okay. It was so interesting that I did not interrupt you, even though we went over, because it was so interesting to hear. If there are questions, though, I might ask if you might stay for a few minutes after and let the people who need to go back to work go back to work. So, but would you come back and draw a ticket for me?
You hit the jam.
Back again, good to see you.